evening and welcome to the Lukas Vidra Trophy, round 6 of this year's championship, which we have named in honor of our great friend which we lost too early, Lukas Vidra. A series where we try to find the best and most all-round driver here at ISO. As we are joined in the booth by Jason White. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Jonathan. Thank you for broadcasting this evening. We really appreciate it.
You're very much welcome, and very happy to see you racing tonight. What are your prospects for the evening?
Not to make any mistakes and see if I can have a decent finish. These cars are extremely difficult to drive. They have an abundance of power, but they are not particularly grippy. Even with that massive rear wing that's on the car, they don't produce a lot of downforce, and the car sort of floats over the surface of the track rather than biting into it. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
So, and it's interesting. It's very dependent on track conditions, how well you do. In the session that just preceded this one, the practice session, I was able to do a 59 flat, and now. In this session, even though I bettered that time, it took me forever to do it because the track conditions had changed. Near as I can figure is that the server is taking the qualifying session at being a different time. And so the track temperature was different, and the car responded completely different to brake inputs and steering inputs. And so I changed the brake setting a little bit, made them softer. And that was enough for me to be subtle enough with it in the turns and get a decent time. But even then, I'm down in the teens. So I think the best thing to do is just keep it clean and not blow the engine and see what happens. But these cars are fun to drive regardless of the outcome. Richard Wilkes has outdone himself again with the physics. This is an update of a previous iteration that we had run before in another league. And so far, the reaction's been very positive. We're lucky to have Richard on our team. He's very talented when it comes to creating these physics files. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, he certainly made a masterstroke out of this one. I had the opportunity to give it a go on Thursday evening, and I had a blast. I think I ran like 20 laps or something just for fun. And it's really interesting how easy it is to drive it on a little bit of a slide, but as soon as you lock up, for example, then you have troubles for 4 or 5 corners further on because of the different temperature in the brakes. So you need to wait for them to cool back down a little bit before they actually work coherently again with each other.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. That's true, and that's certainly going to play out over the course of 25 laps, no question. It's really great to run this circuit too. I mean, this is the AMS version of the Österreichring, the 1977 edition, which is close enough to 1980 that it's the exact spec that we should be running for this series, which took place in 1980. But the Österreichring, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who does not like driving this track. It's a driver's dream. Beautiful, up and down, hilly topography, high speeds. Really challenges not only your reflexes but your fortitude, because a lot of the passing opportunities come into very diabolical sections, and you have to be really committed if you want to go for something. So, of course, the modern day version of this track has been butchered, and it's a totally different situation. But this is the classic one that everyone remembers, with the chicane in the first turn that was put there after Donahue's unfortunate accident from 1975, I believe. A couple years later, they put this chicane in there, and thankfully, it's not a Mickey Mouse chicane so much. It does have a little bit of character to it. It's a right, left, right, and at least it's not a bunch of the way that a lot of chicanes in this part of Europe are done, where they put up a bunch of tires.
Yeah,
So.
It certainly has a bit more character with the curbs and especially the braking zone, I find, where you come over a crest and you need to start braking before the crest, and then you have to modulate your brake as you go over that crest and then try to get more brake on again before you turn in. which
The other, yeah,
turns into a very interesting proposition.
yeah, you really, I mean, these cars do not like to change direction quickly. So that is really what it comes down to, is you have to modulate the brakes. You have to be very careful about balancing the car as you enter a corner. Otherwise, the car will have a mind of its own and just lurch one way or the other. And you have to be absolutely on the line too if you're accelerating with these cars, because if you're off by just a little bit, you have to make a course correction. The car doesn't like that either. It'll let you know. So,
Yeah,
of course,
go ahead.
no, and of course those we have some GM designers racing with us tonight. Myself being a car designer as well and professor, so we appreciate this car because it was designed by the maestro, Giorgetto Giugiaro. So,
And with a bit of a checkered past, I believe, the M1 itself, but as these race cars, an absolute dream.
Mm-hmm.
And
these have I believe these have an inline-6 engine, correct?
Yeah, it's a 3.5 liter M88 inline-6 engine, so I believe the same engine you would have found in the Sauber in the World Endurance Championship of the time. And I think it was also in turbo-charged form used in F1 at one time or another. If I'm not entirely mistaken. So a fairly versatile engine, but even more so sweet-sounding engine.
Well, I've about spent myself on qualifying, so I'll hang out with you until the race starts, if that's all right.
That would be very nice indeed. So
okay.
I've had a track map in the background as we've been talking here. So the Österreichring, for the uninitiated, this is the track that was before we got the A1 ring, nowadays named the Red Bull ring. And before it was known as the Österreichring, I believe it was known as Zeltweg. For those of you with very, very long memories of racing in general.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to both the Österreichring and Zeltweg both. I'm not sure what dates correspond to that designation, or if there is even a noteworthy designation, because the nearby town is Spielberg. So it can't be, I don't know if it's necessarily a geographical reference or what, Zeltweg.
Honestly not sure, but general thing I've seen would suggest that around the war years it was known as Zeltweg, and then more and more it was moved over to be known as the Österreichring, as it started hosting international championships. But as you mentioned, located near Spielberg in Austria, a 5.942 kilometer long, or if you're in the mile region of the world, 3.692 miles, and we'll be going for a short and sweet 25 laps, which will equal about 92.3 miles. And a lot of work during those 92 miles.
Yeah, I think we'll need showers after this race, because it's a lot of work to keep these cars pointed straight. And the other thing that's nice about running a series that is, well, not a series. We've run this as a series before in other leagues, but the nice thing that's about running a spec race like this is that nobody has a mechanical advantage. Everybody is presented with the same equipment, and really the only thing it's down to is whatever your setup is at home and your own driving ability. So, this series is in the same tradition as, say, the IROC series in America, or the 1991 Jaguar Intercontinental Challenge. It's in the same general framework, even though these cars were entered by privateers, all of them, and they probably had the ability to work on their setups. But it's, everybody's essentially racing with the same BMW M1 with the big wing. So, and there's very few things you can change on these cars. The setup it's a pretty narrow one.
Yeah, and I think the great thing with what I've seen so far during practice and qualifying is that the limited setup options doesn't really limit how you make the car work, because I've seen drivers drive with more of an understeery style with these cars and making that work, and I've seen drivers with an oversteery style like yourself drive these cars. Both styles work, it's just you get some different advantages and disadvantages with that, and the longer this race will go, the more we will see where the advantages and disadvantages will be, with dependent on how you start having the car behave, it'll go more and more into that behavior the longer the race goes and the more the tires wear.
Yeah, I would agree. The tire wear and the fuel weight burning away is definitely going to play into it. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of drivers towards the end going through some of the turns, looking out their driver window rather than the windshield because the car's on an angle. So we'll definitely see how that goes.
It'll be very much similar to how it's probably the closest we will get to rally driving this year at ISO.
I would say so, yeah. But in any case, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And this is the whole point of this series. And in any case, the Lucas Vidra Trophy is to it's geared towards versatility. The drivers that are the most versatile are usually the ones who do well, because we try to make as much variety throughout the series as we can.
Indeed, and that's why we've seen both the open wheel USAC series having parts in this, and we did the Nürburgring 200 miler, I think that was 200 laps, 200 miles, I think it was.
Yeah.
And now these BMW M1s. The cars are very, very different, but it is, as you mentioned, and as I mentioned earlier, to find the best all-round driver who can handle all the different kinds of machinery.
It reminds me too of as a parallel example, there was a sporting series that was run both in America and in the United Kingdom, or maybe Europe as well, called the Superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a athletic competition that was run in. It was over a series of different types of athletic events: running, swimming, bowling, tennis, just to name a few. And they would select top athletes from all different types of sporting disciplines, from similar ones. So you'd have like Peter Revson from auto racing. You'd have Johnny Bench from baseball. You would have I forget what football player they had. I think Johnny Unitas was in there, but they just had a wide variety of athletes, and the point was to see who is the best all-around athlete. And those are on YouTube to watch. They're really thrilling contests. I think Revson even won one or two of the events. Obviously, they didn't have race cars for as a option, but they
did in Sweden.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did. They did folk race or.
Oh, that's cool.
Bilcross as one of the possible events that they would do, and I remember specifically her name was Magdalena Forsberg, a biathlonist, I think it's called, where you ski and shoot at targets.
Mm-hmm.
And she would be generally in the mix, whatever contest it was. Her biggest, I think the biggest contest where she was really, really good was canoeing, because of the very high similarity between that and the kind of practice she would do for her biathlon competitions.
Yeah, I think in the sports they chose in some of the Superstars series, you had to. I think one of the rules was you couldn't take part in the sport you already were taking part in. Like, so you sat out, like if you were a bowler, you sat out the bowling portion or something. I don't know, but
that sounds about right.
It depends. I know James Hunt took part in one of them in Europe, and but it was it was an interesting concept. It's surprising. Sure. It's surprising to me that nobody has thought to revive it today, because it would certainly be an interesting. I mean, you don't see many situations where people cross over sports these days, like the days of, a player who does both baseball and football or something, are very, you don't really see that anymore. I mean, there's very few people that I can think of that could do both.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Bo Jackson, perhaps.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know that Michael Jordan tried to do baseball after doing basketball for so many years, and it just didn't work.
Mm.
So even someone who's as talented an athlete as he is, you know, bridging between two disciplines is very difficult. So.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those kind of TV programs that is actually very interesting to watch, as you say.
Yeah.
And I think the only real discipline where I've seen like the interchanging nowadays would be skiing, like for sprints or long distance, where they would if there's a relay where they would bring in like a biathlonist, for example, to do
Yes.
one of the relay stages in
Yeah,
those kind of competitions.
And certainly, I used to run the 4x400, when I was in high school, and certainly you would, with the team of 4 runners that you had, you would pick the person who is most likely to do well in the first stint versus others, who can get off the blocks the fastest. That's
Mm-hmm.
the one you want to start. And, it's clearly you try to set it up that way.
Indeed.
But now I'm getting nostalgic. I miss those days. It was a lot of fun. It's amazing the zone you go into right before a start. You focus, and all the noise of the crowd and everything around you suddenly just drops to zero. You don't hear them at all.
Indeed. It's a really great feeling, for sure.
Well,
while we are in a bit of a remembrance mood, as it were, I brought up the points, but let's actually go to just to remind ourselves that this is in the memory of Lukas Vidra that we do this series. One of the really great sim racing guys that I've ever met. Always really nice to talk to, and really into the historic aspect of racing. And for us, it felt like the most appropriate thing to name the series after him when we found out that he passed away. I believe it was last year now.
Yeah. Lucas really was a great example of the kind of person that makes a sim racing community work. Someone who's really enthusiastic, someone who enjoys what they're doing regardless of winning or losing. And we miss him a lot because he was a lot of fun to have around, and he was always kind and congenial and very enthusiastic. So.
For sure, and as we are talking a little bit more about the championship, we have both the points scheme and the driver points in the championship as of before this 6th round. So in the 2020 Lukas Vidra Trophy, you score points down to 10th position, with the winner bringing home 15 points, second place scoring 12, and then it drops by 1 point each from 10 down to 1, from 3rd to 10th.
Yeah, and the key there, if you look at the point spread, is there's a precipitous drop between 5th and 6th. So there's, how we always love. So how we love to point out that people race really hard for the win and also for the last points paying position.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to keep your eye on 5th and 6th, because there's a real incentive to finish in the top 5.
For sure. I'm talking about finishing well. There's nothing taken away from that. Thiago Canola has been doing that so far in this championship, as he is leading the point standings at 54.5 points. David Yates, last year's winner in a different site, lies second in the championship on a 34.5 points. Anders Nilsson, the Flying Swede version 2, as I've come to call him as of late, is third in the championship at 30.5 points. Just half a point behind him is Juha Boos in 4th And a further 1 point behind Juha, we find Cesariusz Ślepinski on 29.
Yeah, and if we have a look right now at what the qualifying standings are, with about 2 minutes 45 seconds to go, most of the people on that list are right near the top. And it's definitely getting fast and furious up there. Grant Radal is currently at the top. Tiago is second. Brian Janik, the Detroit Demon, is third. Anders Nilsson, Super Swede 2.0, is fourth. And David Jakes is fifth. Ślepinski is sixth. Gabriel Del Piccolo, seventh. Steve Parker, eighth. He's very good in heavy cars like these. Little Al is ninth, and Ray Rodal is 10th. So this should prove to be a very interesting contest up front, and a very active first corner. Let's put it that way.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those corners in racing anywhere really, where if you try to take any kind of liberty, you think, oh, I can probably outbrake the car in front. We'll probably find a bit of a pile-up, a bit of kerfuffle going into that chicane.
The good news is that in a lot of these high-speed corners on this track, there is a considerable amount of runoff, especially in the section in the middle that kind of looks like a keyhole. If you do manage to make a mistake, you do have plenty of space to get back on the track without hitting anything. So that's nice. And to be fair, down in the first turn where that S is, you see where the original track surface is off to the left. And there is a pretty decent amount of room on the left-hand side should you miss that chicane. There is a set number of overruns of the track that people are allowed. I believe it's 3. So if you see people pulling into the pits late in the race, they may have run over their shortcut limit. So people are going to have to be very careful about that. And the point at which you overrun it is not always obvious. Like if you try to go on the curbing or the section of the track, the tarmac that has those dots, if you try to do that too much, the game will go, so something to keep in mind as we go on here. And sometimes it's a product of people not wanting to cut the track, but it's because the car lurches on them or something, or they lose balance and the thing will veer into that section. So, but it looks like Grant's going to take the pole here.
Yeah, unless Thiago Canola only a 10th behind, unless Thiago can pull a rabbit out of his magical hat, so to speak, on his final attempt here, I think you're probably right, since those two are about a half a second in front of the others.
Although Thiago is still rolling here as he goes through the final corner, it looks like he may have a shot here. Let's see.
Well, he's actually coming through to, that would be Dr. Tiroch Köver, so I wonder if you're on on
I'm
replay,
looking at,
maybe.
I'm on a, sorry about that, that's my mistake. But it is a timed lap, so let's see if he, now he's on the inner portion of the track. There are those dots I'm talking about. You can't, if you get too far onto those, the game will wag its finger at you and say, nope, can't do that. 9. So now it's these two sections. And you can see here what I was talking about. There's a great deal of space around these turns. So if you do make a mistake, if you do need to take evasive action, you can do so without damaging the fiberglass on these things. So.
Yeah, at least generally. And this is also what Jason called a keyhole.
Yeah.
Fairly similar to if you look at it from top down to turn
looks like a keyhole.
2, 3, 4 at Mid-Ohio. If you look at it with the chicane in mind.
Okay, here he comes off the turn now. We'll see how he does. Heads for the line, and there he goes. He's taking by 1600ths of a second. Fantastic!
My
wow.
God.
With time expired. That is great.
That is certainly pulling a rabbit out of your hat.
Indeed.
That's some fantastic last lap driving there.
Excellent job by Thiago there. So we got 10 minutes as a warm-up here for people to get used to. I mean, it's a 25-lap race, so it's not like the tanks are going to be overly full. I think it's more a case of people are going to have to take the tape off of their grills, and that's going to change the handling of the cars a little bit. They'll push a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be a good opportunity for those who haven't experienced that to take that into account. But we've got, Tiago just pipping Grant for the pole position. Janik is third, Nilsson fourth, Jakes fifth, Schlapinski sixth, Del Piccolo seventh, Parker eighth, Little Al ninth, and Ray Riddall 10th. That's a really, really good top 10. It's going to be very exciting to see what happens over 25 laps.
Indeed, and very tight groups
Mm-hmm.
spread out across the field. There are a few like half a second to a second gap at places, but then you have like 4, 5, 6 drivers within a couple of tenths, so
Yeah.
should prove to be a very good set of racing laps here. But while we wait for the session to roll over so we can have a look at the track from an onboard perspective, let's have a look at the trivia question for you tonight, so you have something to ponder during the 25 laps of action here, as well as what's coming up in the next few weekends. But the trivia first, so courtesy of Jason, so he won't get to answer this one.
Nope.
Who won the Österreichring round of the Pro Car Championship on August the 16th, 1980? Was it A. Nelson Piquet? Was it B. Hans Joachim Stuck? Or C. Carlos Reutemann? I must say I got that wrong, but you never know what you all watching will come up with in that one. And in terms of what's coming up, well, we have, I believe that would be next weekend on October the 18th, the 14th round out of 16 of our 1991 Formula 1 Championship, the Gran Premio Tío Pepe de España, where Jason will be back in the booth and I will be back racing, hopefully doing a bit better for Lotus than I did last time out.
Well, you're getting used to the car. Those of you who have keen ears will note I'm still using my auxiliary microphone. I plan to have my audio issues sorted by next Sunday, one way or the other. If I have to go out and get a whole new microphone setup, I will. But I will be broadcasting on Sunday. Absolutely. And this is going to be an important race to broadcast because there's a high probability that the championship will be decided there. We will we'll have a look definitely when we get closer to it. But yeah, it should be an exciting race, an interesting track. And this has been an exciting series, the F1 91 series.
Very much so. And España itself and the track at Montmelo, Barcelona, is a very tire-hungry one. And similarly to how it was at Hungaroring, drivers will have to be quite careful with how they use the tires. After that, on November the 8th, so 2 weeks after next week's event, we will have the Fuji Television Japanese Grand Prix, round 15 out of the 16 rounds of that 1991 Formula 1 Championship. And finally, of upcoming events that we've got sorted for you is the Trenton Times 300, rounds 11 and 12 of 13 rounds in the championship. The 1974 USAC one, which will prove, I believe, to be a very interesting set of races at Trenton, with the championship almost sewn up last time out, but still a slight hint of possibility that the championship has yet to be decided.
Yeah, it's unless David Jakes has the worst luck imaginable, I don't think. I think the conclusion of this championship ought to occur there. But Trenton is a fabulously distinctive track, and it's going to be 2 150-mile rounds, with the second race being determined. The grid of that will be determined by the finishing order of the first race. So it's going to be really exciting. It's the only double-header round that we have in this championship this time around. So the rest of them have all been just single races.
And it may also turn out to be one of those cases where race 1, most drivers might end up finishing very well indeed, and then for race 2, when everyone is a little bit more tired, issues and troubles will be very close behind.
Well, I mean, if you have bad luck in race 1 and you're out early, you have the luxury of sitting there and resting, while
Indeed.
everybody else is driving like mad, and then when we have a short break in between, and then the guys who are rested, maybe they have an advantage in the second repeat. So who knows?
It'll certainly be a very interesting one to watch. Let's see now if we can find someone out on track. Let's see if anyone is about to start their lap. Let's see, where is KO at the moment? He is at turn... at Bosch. Oh, there we are. David Saber just about to head out on a lap here, so let's ride on board with him down the start-finish straight into Heller Licht S. This first corner, first set chicane. Over the crest we go. Ooh, quite a bit of curb hopping there. But through this right, left, right combination, very crucial to get a power down on the exit as we're going uphill on this long Flatschach curved straight and into Dr. Tiroch Kurve. This very, very long uphill right-hander. Yet again, very, very important to get a power down, to get very quickly over this crest and have as much speed as possible down Valvoline Gerade, also named the Valvoline Straight.
These drivers have such beautiful scenery off to the right that they just cannot be distracted by it.
Indeed, as here comes a left kink in a curved braking zone into Bosch Kurve, braking down from around 200 kilometers an hour, 160 miles an hour, into this long sweeping right-hander that opens up towards the exit, and then we go into the Texaco chicane, or Texaco chicane, which was also, I believe, put in the late 70s, with this very, very long left-hander first, and then downhill and graded towards the outside of the track, this second left-hander, and into this right kink over the crest we go into Reifeisenhügel, this straight with a crest here under the Texaco banner, and then downhill braking zone into the final turn, Rindkurve, again a corner leaning towards the outside, very easy to run wide here and hit the barrier on the outside. Onto the start-finish straight we go, and that's one lap of this Österreichring as it was in between 1977 and 1987.
Yeah, that second to last turn there, that's a pretty diabolical one because there's adverse camber as you're coming out of the corner, and if you're accelerating on it, the back end might slip out from underneath you, or the worst possible scenario is you'll just fly straight over to the barrier. And curiously, you have a kind of a similar situation coming off of, although it's not adverse camber there, but it just, I don't know, it's very tempting to be on the throttle too much and just glance the barrier on the outside. I think aerodynamics are going to play a key role in how people handle those turns.
Very much so.
If a car is immediately in front of you, it's definitely going to change the way your car is going to behave coming off those turns.
For sure, it's because of how quick all of these turns are. I think the only second gear turn on this track is the first 3 turns at the chicane at Heller Licht S.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all third gear or higher.
And there you see what happens there with David. It's very easy to lose the back end on these cars because it's, I mean, even with that massive wing, they don't produce a lot of grip. You're basically just, for the most part, it's mechanical, very little aero grip. So, all right, well, I'm going to get situated in my car. Thanks very much for broadcasting, Jonathan. It was nice to share the booth with you just to warm things up before we start the race. But I would think it's going to be a relatively quick race, probably I would say between 45 minutes and an hour. So
Yeah,
that's
I would think the same.
all right. Well, hope you guys enjoy. Thanks again, Jonathan, for your expert commentary, and hello to everyone on YouTube. Hope you enjoy as well.
Thank you very much for joining me pre-race here, Jason. I hope you have a good one. Enjoy
Yeah.
yourself and best of luck.
All right. I'll do my best. Talk to you later.
Yep, will do.
User disconnected from
So
your
that's
channel.
Jason White, one of our drivers in tonight's race. We have 2 minutes, so let's quickly have a look through the field so you know more or less how your favorite drivers' cars are looking. We have Thiago Canola in the number 26 BS Fabrication BMW. We have Anders Nilsson in one of the Schnitzer BMW, the Unipart Univest sponsored number 64. We have Gabriele Del Piccolo in the one of the Grundisch sponsored machines. A bit unsure what the exact team is called. We can also see the Franchi logo on the car. We also have David Yates in the Autosonic number 63 BMW. We have Brian Yannick in the Zoll Auto BMW. We have Steve Parker, as we saw earlier, in the Kanacher GT red and yellow number 75. We have David Saber in the number 27 BNS Fabrication. We have Ray Riddle in the Grundisch white with the red, dark blue, light blue highlights. There are 2 of those in the field. This is the number 69. We have David Junt in the number 60 machine, the Abel Lepitre sponsored car. We have Alberto Junior in the number 5 BNS Fabrications. We have Keo Michiels in the Basov red and white BMW. We have Grant Riddle in the white and I'd call that orange, I think, Valvoline BMW. We have Christoph Lichtenstein for GS Tuning in the blue and white denim BMW. We have Cesare Slapinski in the number 25 BNS Fabrications. Let's see where we were. Grant Riddle is in that one. We have Mikael Drexler in the HIS Jeans sponsored Manfred Casani Racing BMW. Christoph Lichtenstein we saw. We have Raul Jereb in the number 28 BNS Fabrications. Pardon. We have Alberto Ibanez in the Marco Rennsport red and white Marlboro number 88. We have Jason White in the Scuderia Basilea number 61, teammate in at least current team to David Junt. Mikael Drexler we saw. Bruno Chacon is in the second of the GS Tuning BMWs, the white and blue denim sponsored cars. We have Simon Wattman in the Sauber Racing Switzerland Po jeans sponsored car. We have Raul Jereb we saw. We have Mike Olsen in the second of the Sauber Racing Switzerland, the full white Po jeans car. We have Porfirio Santos for Jürgensen and Son for Bioscaling, the white BMW with green highlights. We have Jules Bouchard for BMW Austria, the Große Bär, Gösse Bär sponsored BMW. We have David Junt there, Thiago Canola. I'm just going to quickly run through, see if there's anyone else we didn't see before. Vadim Tatchak we have in the black Air Press sponsored BMW. And we have Jason Whiten in the number 70 Mersario team Grundisch sponsored red, dark blue, light blue BMW. And Peter Lavac is in the red and white, I believe that says Memphis sponsored BMW. And we have François Remen in the Alimpo Motorsport BMW Netherlands white, red and blue BMW. And I believe those are everyone, so let's quickly go back and see from this angle. So Thiago Canola will start from pole position with Grant Riddall in second. Ryan Yannick will start third with Anders Nilsson in fourth. Fifth will be starting David Yates with Cesare Schlapinski in sixth. Seventh for Gabriele Del Piccolo with Steve Parker in eighth. Roberto Quinn on ninth with Ray Riddall in 10th. David Sable will start 11th with Vadim Tachak in 12th. 13th will be Jason Whited with Petr Lavac in 14th. Christoph Lichtenstein in 15th with Keo Michiels 16th. Francois Remen will start 17th with Alberto Ibanez, Alberto Senior in 18th. Jason White will start 19th with Michael Drexler 20th. Bruno Chacon will start 21st with Simon Wattman 22nd. Raoul Jereb will start 23rd and Mike Olsen will start in 24th. Porfirio Santos will start 25th and Jules Bouchard will start in 26th. With, I believe, David Junt rounding out the field in 27th for Scuderia Basilea. So, just give me a moment and I'll be right back, as I need a quick moment here before the start of the race. So there we are, a very slow and steady beginning to the race with this parade slash warm-up lap, and you better start preparing yourself, because this will be some frantic 25 laps or about 40 to 60 minutes of action. As we can see here, Thiago Canola doing a little bit of start practice, as I believe we will see the whole field lining up in the background. And look at that beautiful field of cars. All these BMW M1 Pro cars trying to get set and ready for this race around the Österreichring. You can see, I believe we are just waiting for David Junt there to line up. I believe he has. I'm just going to quickly jump on board with Thiago here, so we can see the start lights in front of us here. We are waiting for some more. Oh, Porfirio Santos we are waiting for, so Porfirio's had a bit of a moment somewhere during the warm-up lap here, but he is soon at the start-finish straight, I believe. I believe he's in the last corner now. He is indeed, so he will be getting into position very soon. So we're just waiting for Porfirio to get lined up and ready here. There we are. We're just waiting for the green flag to come. Green light, as it were. The red. 4 red lights. And the green light is on and we are underway. And it looks like Thiago has a pretty decent start there with Grant Riddall in second. We can see everyone trying to... Oh, as we have a bit of contact there. I believe that was between Lichtenstein and Whited. As everyone tries to get up the hill into turn 1. This 1, 2, 3 chicane. As you can see, Riddall has taken the lead away from Thiago Canola, so Riddall got up the inside into the first chicane as the whole field streams past. Owen Bouchard and Santos running side by side there, coming through, and Mike Olsen currently towards the back of the field there. So again, we can see here all the cars, pretty much all the cars on a 4-wheel drift going into this Dr. Tiroch curve. Oh, and a bit of side-by-side contact there between Chacon and Jereb. And Santos with running onto the grass on the start, coming out of the first chicane running in last at the moment. Ooh, and there's a bit of contact there, I think. That didn't look good at all. Well, look, I believe they survived though. I think it was Jereb involved in that, but it looks like they all survived. Nicely done there. Ooh, as Whited is a little bit wide, Ibanez is looking up the inside. And I believe he'll take the position. And I believe that's David Junt trying to go round outside as well. It is indeed, and he manages to do so down at the Texaco chicane. Very nice stuff indeed. We can see here the up ahead of them, that's Francois Remen in 14th, and everyone else right in front of him. Oh, yes, I believe someone ran wide. David Saber possibly, but it looks like everyone survived, as I believe that was Ray Riddle with a bit of a lock-up. But down along the start-finish straight, Grant Riddle currently holds on to the lead. With Canola second, Yannick third, Yates fourth, Shrapinski fifth, Nilsson down to sixth, Piccolo seventh, Equino 8th, Riddle 9th, and Parker rounding out the top 10. Just listen to those beautiful sounding M88 BMW straight line engines. And here comes Sabre and Lavach running side by side. Let's try to go down to their little battle. Oh, no! Oh, there's contact on the exit. Sabre and Lavach hard into the barriers. Oh, dear me. That will have lost them a lot of time and possibly quite a bit of damage as well. That's very, very unfortunate. It looked like their tires interlocked as they came off the turn at Dr. Tiroch curve. Down into Bosch curve they go, and you can see there a bit of damage on the left side of Lavach's car. I'd assume some similar damage to the left side of David Saber's BNS tuning car. That's very unfortunate indeed. And just one of those things with these cars. Ooh, as Anders Nilsson with a bit of a twitch as he tries. Ooh! I wonder what happened there. That looked very strange. That looked like Yannick and Shlapinski with a bit of a moment, or possibly might have been the car in front actually. Oh, someone is sideways. That's Grant Riddle losing out. So Anders Nilsson had to look up the inside, as did Shlapinski. On a bit of contact there between Shlapinski and Yannick. Wow. But they all survived, and Anders Nilsson gained 4 places from 7th to 3rd. And some great opportunistic driving there. So Canola takes the lead ahead of David Yates in 2nd. And Anders Nilsson leads this pack in behind. As we get an opportunity to look at how the draft works here. As Grant Riddle is pulling up in closer behind. And now he's looking for a bit of a cut back, but a bit of understeer mid-corner there. So I don't think he'll quite have the opportunity coming down to Bosch curve at the end of the Valvoline Gerade section. Oh, but here he comes. Wow, look at that extra speed. But not quite able to do anything. Oh, Grant now wide, out in the marbles. This could be Yannick's opportunity. Not quite. Oh, Del Piccolo is wide in behind. So Del Piccolo loses a little bit of time. McQueen currently 8th, Ray Riddle in 9th. Parker still holding on to 10th position, just ahead of Vadim Tachak. Oh, and there's another little battle pack by the looks of things. Francois Remen currently 12th now, ahead of Junt and Alberto Ibanez. I believe it's Jason White who's dropped back a few positions. When I thought Liechtenstein made a bit of a mistake there, but able to hold on to it. Brun Chacon currently 20th, Simon Wattman 21st. Jason White a bit further behind. Oh, with a big lockup going into Rindkurve in 22nd position. Raoul Jereb dropping back with that damage he picked up earlier. Oh, in a very loose car indeed. Oh, and Jules Bochard the same. Going to look up the inside there. Mike Olsen currently 25th. Drexler in 26th, so he has dropped back as well. And Porfirio Santos currently rounding out the field in 27th. Looks like Thiago Canola 2.7 second lead at the moment ahead of David Yates and Anders Nilsson. And then it's 3 cars together, I was going to say, but Slapinski runs a little bit wide coming out of Tirach Curve. But here comes, Grant Widall trying to look for the move, getting really sideways, getting out of the draft. Both of them on a slide into the braking zone for Bosch Curve, and it looks like Grant will take the position. Unless he runs a little bit wide on the exit. Yannick looking up the inside. On a 4-wheel drift up the inside. Let's see what he can do at the exit. Looks like Grant had a good run though coming off. And will hold on to 4th for now. Looks like Steve Parker has dropped Vadim Tachak by a little bit, and now right up behind Alberto Junior, who himself has been passed by Ray Riddall in the last lap and a half since we last saw this little battle pack. And Thiago Canola sets a fast lap at a 1:56.4. That's quite rapid with a race tank of fuel in the car. When Alberto Junior looking for the inside move going into Hella Licht S. It looks like he'll, he actually manages to take the chicane. He gets up into back up into 8th position. Let's see what Ray can do on the exit. It is looking a little bit iffy, so maybe Steve will have a run. Well, not actually. Ray with a good bit of drafting there, up right in behind Alberto Equino. And then Steve Parker keeping a watching brief in 10th. And actually with a great run. Let's see what he can do here. Going up the right side. And Ray in the draft actually pulls away. Both of them sideways. Steve looking up the inside. I thought he'd send it there, but decided to err on the side of caution and stay behind for now. And Queen a bit sideways up ahead. But Vadim catching back up to the cars in front, and David Junt has passed Francois Remen. So David Junt working his way up the field, started in last position, already up into 12th. As Francois Remen runs a little bit deep at the Texaco chicane and lets Peter Lavac past. So Peter Lavac seems less affected by the damage than Raoul Jereb has seemed to be. As this is another battle pack, 3 cars in the form of Remen, Whitehead and Saber. And it looks like Whitehead has a bit of damage on the right front of his car. So already quite a bit of contact in this race, and we already 6 laps in and 20 odd laps to go. A bit of quite the hefty damage on Saber's left front there. Oh no, as he runs too fast into the chicane and he taps Whitehead, and both of them go round. When Saber has to engage reverse there, so he will drop even further back than Whitehead probably will. As Alberto Ibanez goes past, and there goes Bruno Chacon as well. And Simon Wattman not far behind either. Jason White up into 20th, Jereb 21st. Buchard 22nd, Drexler 23rd, Mike Olsen 24th, Santos 25th, Kel Michiels has unfortunately retired in 26th, and Christoph Lichtenstein the same in 27th. So very unfortunate indeed, but one of those things that can happen in these quick races. Anders Nilsson is up into 2nd, Grant Widol 3rd, Yannick 4th, Strapinski 5th, Yates down to 6th. So David Yates must have made a mistake somewhere and dropped a heap load of time. Not sure when or where that happened, but that I'd assume that was a while ago. That's why I'm not trying to bring up a replay. One of Peter Lavac unfortunately has retired as well. Oh dearie me, that's very unfortunate for him. He was looking to have a good race up until that point. Let's see if we can possibly catch when and where that happened. Oh, looks like that's a disconnection maybe, as he runs up into other areas of the track. So unfortunately we can't see whether it was a crash or not, but I assume that was a disconnection. That's David Junt now hassling Ray Riddle for 10th. So David Junt flying up the field at the moment. So let's see what David Junt can do, riding with him at the front of his car at the moment. Looking at the rear end of Ray Riddle's BMW M1. Let's look at those beautiful mountains to the right of us. As now David Junt has to run. Let's see what he can do down at the Bosch curve. Not quite able to do anything there, but maybe with a good run off here he can do something in the upcoming left-hand corner. No, Riddle very strong off of Bosch curve. So not an opportunity there for David Junt, unfortunately for him. Steve Parker's gotten past Alberto Equino, so Steve Parker up into 8th. As Equino a little bit sideways behind him in 9th now. Del Piccolo in 7th still. Yates still trying to find a way up past Schlapinski nearest in front of him at the moment. And David Yates will want to have a good run here, as he's currently 2nd in the Lucas Vidra standings, as Grant Riddle sets the fastest lap of the race as he's trying to catch back up to Anders Nilsson in front of him. He has 1.5 seconds to go, but with that kind of pace I can't see it being too long until he catches back up. But for Thiago Canola, currently leading, all he needs to do really is outscore Nilsson and Yates, and if not outscore them, then finish as close behind them as he can, because he has a nigh on 20-point lead in the standings at the moment. But look at this, Grant is flying. Already gained about 0.6 of a second this lap, and looks like he may be right up behind. Ooh, as he outbrakes himself into Bosch curve though. That loses him time back again, so back to 1.2 behind. Was, I believe, Alberto Quina has made a mistake, back to 12th. Let's see if we can possibly find out what happened to him. Oh, looks like a mistake coming off of... Yeah, that's Dr. Tiroch curve. Looks like he runs a little bit deep, gets onto the marbles, runs wide onto the grass, and the car just won't quite hold the line that he wanted to take, and off to the inside of the track and down a few positions he goes. So Junt now up into the top 10 and looking to still get past Ray Riddle, so Ray doing a very good job to stay ahead at the moment. And look now, David Yates, no sorry, that's Yates past Riddle, so Riddle has made another mistake. Looks like he missed this braking zone, maybe. Yeah, it looks like it's that simple of a mistake. He just missed the braking point a little bit, going into the second left at the Texaco chicane, and that's all it takes to go onto the graphs. And once you're on the graphs, you lose quite a bit of time. So Yates up into 5th, and unfortunately Mike Olson has also retired. I see there, so let's see if we can possibly find out what happened to Mike. Who looks like he went wide at the Texaco chicane as well and decided to give up. I know he was struggling a little bit with the cars earlier this evening, and looks like he decided to retire instead of possibly risking taking someone off the track later on in the race. Oh, and look at this battle pack still going on. Now with Yannick pulling away a little bit, and with Schlapinski in 4th, Yates right in behind him in 5th, and then Grant Vidal right in behind the Autosonic BMW in 6th. Oh, and Grant wide again into the barriers he goes. Looks like Grant might be overdriving the car a little bit, as I believe that might have been Thiago Canola setting a fastest lap maybe. I noticed there was something popping up because of the action that Grant Vidal put on there. I didn't quite see what that was. Was Yates a little bit ragged going through the Hella Licht S, and Schlapinski promptly pulls out a few tenths on the Canadian. When Yates really sideways there, just about holds on to the car. Was Porfirio Santos has been giving a 10-second stop and go penalty. I wonder if that's down to him unfortunately being called for cutting a few too many times, or if he may have had to pit and the race officials thought he was a bit too uncareful going through the pit lane maybe. But either way, a 10-second stop and go for Santos unfortunately, as he retires. So let's see if we'll be able to see what happened to him. So looks like quite a bit of damage on his car, so possibly the car gave up the ghost as it were there. Quite a heavy hit indeed. So probably too much damage to the car in the end to be able to keep going. And because I need to go and get something to drink, I'll leave you with this camera for a moment. I'll be right back. So, my apologies, but I am back, and you can see that Yannick is still in 3rd, Slapinski 4th, Jakes in 5th, and Grotmedol in 6th, so looks like no change in the top 6 positions at the moment. And Canola still in, going faster and faster, 156.2 now, with Del Piccolo still in 7th. Parker in 8th and trying to catch up to Del Piccolo. Junt in 9th, so he has finally been able to get past Ray Vidal. So Ray Vidal in 10th now. Francois Remen up into 11th, I think he'll be quite happy with that. Alberto Quino still running in 12th. With Jason Whitehead currently 13th. With Vadim Tachak in 14th. Alberto Ibanez for Marco Rennsport in 15th. Simon Wattman having some company there in 16th, 17th, 18th with Chacon and Sabre still. So these guys having a very good scrap for these placings, which is very nice to see. Ooh, looks like David Sabre has a bit of a lock up there, who has to take a bit of avoiding action. But all of them survive to fight on, where Sabre has a bit of a loose moment onto the grass. Looks like he's holding on to it, and there's Jason White currently 19th, and would seem like he's catching up to the boys in front, so that could be a 4-way scrap in a couple of laps time. Jules Bourrard currently in 20th, with Drexler close behind in 21st. And Raoul Ireb running, I believe, with a little bit of damage to his car, as he unfortunately has a bit of a moment at the Hellerlicht S in 22nd. And then we have our retirees of Santos, Olsen, Lauach, Michiels and Liechtenstein. Driving these cars are, as David Jakes, I believe, said when I was talking to some of the drivers before the event, as much of racing others as it is racing the car on the track. As Jason said, they are quite difficult to drive on the very limit of what the cars can do, and you will have to work for it if you want to drive it right on the limit to keep the car on track. OS Remen right out in the marbles, completely sideways. Let's have a look on that in the replays. Actually right on board with an in-car. Let's see how he was working the wheel at the time. So looks like he nipped a front brake on the way in, but was able to hold on to it. Very nicely done. Looked like almost looked deliberate from the onboard. But I'm fairly sure he nipped a brake going in, and that's why he went a little bit wide. We'll talk about locking brakes. Here comes Vadim Tachak going into Bosch Curve. A little bit too fast into that one. Looked like a locked front right, which is very easy, and almost even easier to lock the front left because you're going through a curve, left kink curve going in there. OS out in the marbles he goes, but able to hold on to it. Nicely done, Vadim. When the battle here still going on, Sabre trying to go for the move on Chacon. Oh, and contact side by side. Sabre going round, and Chacon the same. So it looked like both of them were trying to get to the same piece of the track, unfortunately. And that's what happens. So Chacon gets back going and Saber does the same. So unfortunately that breaks up that fight. But Jason White climbs up into 17th. And Wattman gets a bit of a gap in 16th. When Jules Bochard quite far off, but regains the grey stuff there. So he drops to 21st, Drexler gets up to 20th. Well, looks like Remen has made a bit of a mistake somewhere as he's now behind Alberto Equino. Let's see if we can find out where and what happened to the Dutchman. Ooh, runs a little bit too deep into the Texaco chicane, goes on to the grass and the car goes round on him. But a quick 360 and he regains the grey stuff ahead of Jason Whitehead as Thiago Canola says another fastest lap at a 1:56.1. So he is certainly flying, and I can notice that David Jund is going quite well as he is up, almost caught up to Steve Parker. When Yates up to 4th. And where's Schlapinski? Schlapinski down to 6th. Let's see if we can find out what happened to him. He's behind them going into Hellerlicht S. It must have happened in the infield. Oh, actually in the last corner. So looks like he must have missed a gear coming off of the Texaco chicane down into Rindkurve, I should say. He's out in the marbles and just won't quite find the grip out there and runs wide and has to let both Yates and Riddle pass, as Riddle has now gotten past David Yates. When he does it in the curve braking zone to Bosch Curve, as Yates finds a bit of grass in the kink on the outside, and Grant says thank you very much and slips past and back up into 4th. And it would seem someone else may have retired as Jereb is up into 21st. Oh, David Saber into the pits. So he must have had too much damage and decided to give his pit crew a chance to do something about it. My apologies for that. So we can see here Whitehead and Remen now in the battle. Let's jump on board with Whitehead on his front bumper. Let's see what he can do about Francois in front of him, as Remen runs a little bit too deep in that braking zone. Maybe an opportunity for Whitehead on the exit. Looks like he gets a good run off the corner. And up the inside he goes. He should have the line. The men very late on the brakes though, trying to go round outside. Just inside the marbles by the looks of things, but still side by side coming through Tirol Curve. But Remen holds on for now. Great fight between these two. Whitehead again looking up the inside, going into the... Ooh, Remen really sideways. Let's see if they're able to slow down. Both of them are able to slow down for Bosch Curve. Very nicely done by the pair of them. And we're still with this battle for 12th and 13th. OS, there's some yellows up here. Not sure what for yet. Let's see if anyone is off in the middle of the chicane. Doesn't look like it. They're up to... Oh, Steve Parker! Oh, dearie me. Whatever happened to him? Oh, him and David Junt were fighting for position indeed. So it looks like there were some side-by-side contact going in. Parker left nowhere to go. Has to straight line it and... Oof. Bit of a dodgy rejoin there. Not sure what was going on there, but Steve Parker tries to get going by the looks of things, but don't know if the engine might have expired there, and that's why he retired. But either way, he's out of the race, and David Junt has dropped back to 14th. So that's unfortunate for Junt, but I suppose it's one of those things. Tatjak up into 12th, and that means Whited is up into 12th, and Remen up into 11th. So this fight now for 11th place, with Alberto Junior up into the top 10. When Whited really loose, going through down up over Reifeisenhügel. That's a very difficult word to say. And through Rindkurve, let's see what White can do down the front straight. I think he's too far behind this time around to make anything of the braking zone. It looks like both of them is currently catching up to Alberto Quino, so it'll be interesting to see in a couple of laps time if they are any closer. But for now, let's quickly have a look up towards the top 6, 7 cars. Chopinski in 6th, Yates 5th, Ridol still 4th, but he has now caught up to Brian Yannick. It looks like Nielsen is still 2nd, 10 seconds behind Thiago Canola. So Canola driving really well here tonight. It looks like he will be able to extend his championship lead. As there's now a lapped car in front of them. I think that's Jules Bouchard. Oh, and Yannick being quite careful. So Grant closes right up. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, oh dearie me, oh dearie me. As Yannick now tries to go up the inside of Bouchard, and Bouchard hangs wide. Ooh, a little bit of side-by-side contact with Ridol there. That will have held up Ridol a little bit, but it looks like they more or less survived that. Looks like Slapinski has dropped back a little bit. Possibly a small mistake, as that's Raul Reb, I think, on the grass there. So Yakes puts a lap on Bouchard as well. Was, I believe, was that someone? That may have been Bouchard who made a bit of a scrape on the wall. When I notice that on the timing screen, Whitehead has gotten past Remen, so Whitehead up into 11th ahead of Francois Remen. Ooh. For only scraping that wall, Remen is quite lucky. That could have been very bad indeed. Oh, unfortunately, Francois Remen receives a 10-second stop and go penalty for that. That seems a little bit strange, but I suppose that would fall under what the game may consider wall riding, which is something certain mods may allow, which is frowned upon in the more serious sim racing circles, as it's a blatant rule break and a glitch use, so to speak. As now the Yannick, Riddle and Yakes are all close together in the battle for the final podium position. Ooh, and look at that. Grant trying to get up the inside, not quite able to get up the inside of Yannick there. Having a small look going into Bosch Curve, but decides to stay behind for now, as we are 5 laps from the end of the race. 5.5, I should say, maybe. Let's jump on board with Brian Yannick and look behind on the cars of Riddle and Yates as they try to get on terms with the Detroitian driver. Both the Brit and the Canadian a little bit deep in main curve, the final turn. Look at how Grant Riddle closes up in that chicane. He really knows how to get the car to go through there very well indeed. A bit of a slow change, it sounded like, for Yannick there. Riddle trying to get an opportunity, looking up the outside. And that's one of the unfortunate things with this track, as we also got to see in the Super Touring Championship that we ran at another league, where you may have the run up the right side of that straight, but because of that left kink, it's very difficult to make a move into Bosch Curve. This would seem that that trend continues here in the Pro Car Championship. And David Junt looks to have quite comprehensively pulled away from Ray Riddle. Alberto Quino still running inside the top 10, 4.5 seconds ahead of Jason Whitehead, who himself has 6 seconds on Francois Remen, who is still to serve his penalty. I'm not sure if he will or not. Vadim Tachak currently in 13th, with Alberto Ibanez in 14th, Simon Wattman in 15th, Jason White currently 16th, with yet again, as he has so often had in USAC, Brun Chacon for close company. So these two, I know they've done some endurance races together before, and they know each other quite well on the racetrack, it would seem, so quite neat to see them get to race each other once again. As that's Anders Nilsson coming up to lap the pair of them. As Mikael Drexler gets out of the way. Oh, as that's Yannick and Ridol. Ridol trying to take advantage of the extra slipstream when he's up to the left side now. Oh, there's contact, both of them into the barrier. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, dearie me, that's not good. Oh, Brian Yannick comes onto the track right in front. Oh, and he loses the car into Grant Ridol. Oh, dearie me. That's very unfortunate indeed. Let's see if we can catch that by going back to the pair in question. See, I believe this is Brian Yannick now we're watching. So let's see, down into the braking zone. Oh, it looks like the tires interlock. And then full speed ahead for the pair of them. Oh, and Yannick with a lot of damage to the car, not able to control it at all. And that's a very hefty crash indeed. Let's see, so Grant Ridol now behind him, so let's quickly see what happened to him later on. Oh, it looks like he felt he was responsible and let Yannick pass, so that means Yates comprehensively into 3rd position now. That helps him quite a bit in the Lukas Vidra standings. That could mean he has an opportunity later in the year to claw back the points to Canola, although that will be possibly quite a slim chance, but a chance nonetheless. That's right, it's using all of the road and then a little bit more. Oh, and talking about using all the road and a bit more, that's Vadim Tachak sideways going through the right hand turn at the Texaco chicane, and even more sideways going through Rindkurve. Looks like Tachak is doing a bit of turning this into a bit of a drifting competition. As Ibanez up into 13th, Francois Remen running in 14th. Wattman still 15th with Jason White for close company, so White has dropped Chacon for the time being. And now looking to get past the Swede to finish in the top 15. Because Francois Remen has been disqualified, so he didn't serve the penalties and the game has disqualified him. That's very unfortunate, but again, one of those things. Let's see if Jason White with a bit of an oversteery car can do anything about Wattman up ahead. With Bernard Chacon in 16th, Drexler 17th, Bouchard 18th, Yareb 19th, Saber 20th. And here's the last of our runners, as Thiago Canola, I believe, has about 1 3/4 of a lap to go before he takes the win here. 15 seconds now his lead to Anders Nilsson, who's in 2nd. David Yates still in 3rd, getting past Jason White. Yannick in 4th with quite the damage to his car. That can't be a nice handling car anymore, neither I expect is Grant Ridol's. So the main interest, I think, is whether Grant can get past Yannick now in a more clean fashion. Up the inside it tries to go, but not quite able to get there. And whether Cesar Shlapinsky, I believe, has more or less a a non-damaged car can do anything about the pair in front. Let's see. Canola still hasn't started the final lap, so quite the long lap time on this track. I would had expected him to start final lap by this point. Let's see. This trio now running nose to tail. To give him his due, as it were, onto the final lap goes Thiago Canola, and from what I've seen, he's put no foot wrong whatsoever in this race, and that 7-second margin to Anders Nilsson, who's no slouch either, certainly attests to the speed Canola has been able to go at in this race. Anders Nilsson likewise doesn't seem to have put a single foot wrong, but not quite able to drive at the same pace as Thiago Canola ahead of him. Yates in third, a couple of mistakes, but took advantage of others' misfortune. Yannick still in fourth at the moment, but Ridol under pressure from Slapinski. Let's quickly see what happens here, whether there's any opportunity down into Bosch Curve. Oh, look at that draft. That slipstream really helping Grant there. Yannick trying to go around outside. Doesn't look like he'll be able to. Well, let's go to our leader as Thiago Canola is entering the final turn, the Rindt Curve, to go on to the start-finish straight and claim another win in this Lukas Vidra Trophy Championship. I believe this is his third win as he crosses the line to take the win. Very impressive drive indeed from Thiago. The Brasileiro can certainly proving his ability to drive whatever is given to him in this particular championship. Anders Nilsson with a very good drive finishes second, and here comes David Yates to finish third. Let's see what happens here for the battle for fourth. All of them together. Ridol, Yannick and Slapinski. Oh, Ridol, Brian Yannick looking for a good exit going on to the start-finish straight. Looks like he won't quite make it though, so Ridol finishes fourth, Yannick fifth, Slapinski in sixth. Del Piccolo will finish seventh. David Jund with a great drive from last position finishes eighth. Ray Ridol looks like he will be able to finish in ninth in this race. Another fine drive from Ray. Nice and consistent. As he comes out of the final turn, and there he goes to finish ninth. Alberto Quino finishes 10th for BNS Fabrications. Jason Whited picks up 11th with Vadim Tachak going through the Texaco chicane. Going over Reifeisenhügel and towards the final turn to claim 12th in this race. And I think considering the fact that he seems to have picked up a little bit of damage, he will probably be quite happy with this. 12th position for him and Schutz Racing. Alberto Ibanez picks up 13th. And looks like, oh, it's Simon Wattman out of petrol. No, sorry, it's already finished. So Wattman finishes 14th. He was a lap down. Chacon finishes 15th. Drexler gets 16th. Jason White dropped to 17th in the end. Bouchard 18th. Jereb 19th. Saber 20th. And our retirees were Parker, Santos, Olsen, Lavach, Michiels, Liechtenstein, and I believe Francois Remen. So quite the race for, and quite a good bit of action, I would say. Very nice to watch. I can understand that, KO, but good to hear that you enjoyed watching the rest of the race as we wait for drivers to possibly join us here. Let's have a look at the trivia question that we brought up earlier, which was who won the Österreichring round of the Pro Car Championship on August 16th, 1980? Was it A. Nelson Piquet, B. Hans-Joachim Stuck, or C. Carlos Reutemann? I know Berlin went with B earlier. Let's see, I see that Gabriele is going for Nelson Piquet as his KO. And congratulations to Gabriele and KO. That's absolutely correct. Nelson Piquet won the 1980 Pro Car
User joined
Championship
your
race
channel.
held here on August 16th, that particular year. As we are now joined by Thiago Canola, our race winner. Congratulations, Thiago.
Hey, thank you, Jonathan. Tough one.
May have been for you, but it certainly didn't look like it. You got the lead quite early, and then it looked like you were just driving away from the rest.
Yeah, I was just trying to, hit my marks. I was using very long gear ratio. In some turns that probably people was using like one gear less than me, and yeah, and early in the race I was very worried about the engine at the start. The temperature went very, very high, above 105 degrees Celsius.
Ooh.
And that's why I didn't even try to defend the position at turn one.
That's very understandable. And that's a bit surprising to me that the engine temperature went that high.
Yeah, I think Porfirio. I think he was very far behind in the warm up lap, and we stayed in the grid like for almost 1 minute waiting for him.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, that must have been the case. But yeah, with that, also looks like you extended your championship lead in the Lucas Vidra Trophy. I believe we have 2 more rounds that will happen later in the year. One in November and one in December, I believe. But that I believe this gives you an nigh on 30-point lead in the championship. Do you think the championship is more or less soon up, or could things still happen?
Yeah, we never know, right? We never know. I always remember Indy. I always remember
Oh,
Indy.
of course, yeah.
Not over until it's over.
Indeed, very much so. But you also say, how did you find the cars actually? From what we've heard, it's mostly been positive from the drivers, but what is your take on this updated M1 Pro car?
It is definitely quicker than the previous one. I was just comparing the lap times. I had my old setup, so it had some notes in the setup, and I was doing probably 2 seconds slower in this same track, because we had raced in this track before.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the car feels more, it feels grippier. And
Okay.
you can feather a lot with the throttle, and I think that was the key for to be quick and to save tires with this new update in the mod. You cannot be so aggressive as we used to be before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt. At least I don't know if anybody felt in a different way. But I felt the car more. It's very sensitive to overdrive.
That sounds about right. I know from what I've heard, other drivers has been talking about like the weight transfer that it's seems a bit more apparent now with the update to the cars, and also that you can drive it a little bit more on the slide than you did before.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean when about the feathering of the throttle. You pretty
Okay.
much has to control your power slide through the turns all the time until you feel the car is it's very to the stick to the ground until you feel the confidence. But you have to feather all the time to power slide the car. Almost I would say it's not the same, but it's similar to what you do in the F1 1971.
Mm.
In my opinion, at least to my style, that was the way I drove it.
I think we've seen both a more understeery style and the slightly more oversteery style that you are alluding to. So seems that both works, and that's great to see that despite with it being a spec series, you can still drive it slightly differently and get similar lap times. So
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Grant has a completely different style, and he's very aggressive, and completely different. And his lap times were incredible.
mm,
So yeah, you're right. Different styles, but same lap times. That's good. The mod's good.
for sure. So we can certainly say that Richard once again has outdone himself with this update to the mod. Um, But yeah, since we don't see any others joining us, once again, congratulations, Thiago, on your victory. And thank you very much for joining me here for a bit of a post-race interview. And with that, I think we will cap off the broadcast. So for everyone who has watched, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the action here tonight, and I hope you all will take care, and we'll see you all in a week's time for the Spanish Grand Prix in the 1991 Formula One Championship, with that championship still up for grabs. But until then, take care and good night.